welcome back to the online learning channel. Today we will be doing the second lesson for grade 5 maths, and it will be focused on rounding off the nearest 10, hundreds and thousands. We will be doing the rules as well as an application at the end of the lesson. Thank you. Sit back and enjoy. We're going to now start off with rounding off the nearest 10. First of all, what is rounding off? Rounding off means making a number simpler but keeping the value close to what it was. So for example, if I have 73 here, if I round it off, you'll notice 73 is closer to 70, and 70 is a multiple of 10. So when we're rounding off the nearest tens, we look at the multiples of 10. So most of your answers will end up with 10. Unless you come into the end of 90s, you'll end up with 100, or the end of 995 and onwards, you'll end up with 1,000. So generally, when you're rounding off the nearest tens, you'll end up with a 0 at the end of your answer. So 73, as we said, round off the nearest 10 will be 70, as it's closer to 70. But 76 is not closer to 70, it's closer to 80. So it'll go round off to the higher 10. But 73 will be in between 70 and 80. These are your two tens, 70 and 80. Now we've got to look at the rules as to how we got it to 70 and how we've got it to 80. Always remember, when you round off the nearest 10, your answer will always end up with a 0, as you can see on the left of the screen. Let's look at how we round off numbers when dealing with 10. First of all, you need to know your multiples of 10. So you must be able to count in tens from 0 to 100, then from 100 to 1,000, and then from 1,000 to 10,000. Once you know this, you'll be able to apply the rules that we are going to do. So please learn your multiples and your counting of tens. Right, now we have a number line to explain to you how we round off and what digits we look at. Let's start off with something simple. When looking at rounding off the nearest 10, you look at the digit, at the last digit of any number. If the number is 5 or more, you will round off to the higher 10. Right? So if your number ends up with 5, there's my midpoint here and there's 5 here. If it's 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 at the end, it will round off to the higher 10, which will be on your right-hand side. But if it's lower than 5, if it's 4, 3, 2, or 1, it will end up on the lower 10. So first of all, if we use an example of 28, there's 28 here, right? 28, my last digit is 8. 8 falls after the 4. Can you see it's falling onto the right-hand side? Now, once you see it's bigger than 4, you know it's going to go to the higher 30. So initially, we have to establish 28 falls between which two tens? 20 and 30. 28 is in between 20 and 30. But 28 is bigger than 4, so it will fall onto the higher 10, which is 30. So we're rounding 28 up to the higher number, which is 30. So first of all, again, you've got to establish between the two tens, which two tens 28 falls in. 28 falls between 20 and 30. This indicates that my answer will either be 20 or 30. That I know for a fact. Now I'll have to look at the last digit of the number. If the last digit is greater than 4, it is rounded off to the bigger 10, which is 30. And we can see in the number line, 28 is closer to 30 than to 20. Right. Now if I look at the number 22, again, I've got to establish, we know 22 falls between 20 and 30. That we know. Now, I have to look at the last digit of 22, which is 2. 2 is less than 4. So it's going to fall onto the lower side of the 20. So we're going to round it down now. If the number is smaller than 4 or 4, we're going to round it down. So we're not going to round it up to the higher 10. We're going to round it down to the lower 10. So the lower 10 in this case is 20. So 2 as the last digit. We know it's smaller than 4, so we're going to round it off to the lower 10, which is 20, as you can see on the number line. Now, there's a small clip for you to watch. Just watch this clip and we'll continue with the rest of the lesson.
Math Coach presents Rounding to the Nearest 10. We use rounding when we want to estimate. Rounding gives us numbers that are easy to use, like 10, 20, 30, and so on. Rounded numbers help you solve everyday problems where you don't need an exact answer. That's called an estimate. Rounding might look hard, but hey, guess what? If you know how to put numbers in order and can skip count by tens, you can learn to round any number to the nearest 10 with ease. Here are some useful things to know. You can show any number on a number line. Numbers to the right have a greater value than numbers to the left. Every number that ends in the digits 1 through 9 sits between two tens. The nearest 10 on either side of your number is a useful benchmark. And the midpoint is the number that is halfway between the two benchmarks. If the number you want to round is less than the midpoint, round down. If the number you are rounding is at the midpoint or greater than the midpoint, round up. You can round any number in 4 easy steps. Let's see how. Let's round 27 to the nearest 10. Step 1. Figure out what benchmarks to use. Between which two tens does 27 belong? 20 is the lower benchmark and 30 is the higher benchmark. Step 2. Find the midpoint between your benchmarks. That's the number that is exactly in the middle. The midpoint between 20 and 30 is 25. Step 3. Now locate 27 on the number line. You can see that 27 is more than 25. So now you're ready for step 4. You can round. 27 is closer to 30 than to 20. So, to the nearest 10, 27 rounds up to 30. Sometimes the nearest 10 is 0. Let's round 4 to the nearest 10. The benchmarks are 0 and 10. The midpoint is 5. 4 is less than 5, so to the nearest 10, 4 rounds down to 0. And sometimes the nearest 10 is 100. Look at 96. The benchmarks are 90 and 100. The midpoint is 95. 96 is greater than 95. So, to the nearest 10, 96 rounds up to 100.
Okay, so that gives you more of an indication as how we're going to round off. Now remember, the midpoint again always ends with the number 5. If it ends with the number 5, from 5 onwards, you're going to round up to the higher 10. And if it's lower than 5, you're going to round down to the lower 10. Now, we looked at 28. We looked at the last digit. And the number on the left, was, when we're using, okay. Now we can look at another way of rounding up the nearest 10, where we use our place value. Remember in lesson 1, we did the place value of numbers. Now when we're rounding off the nearest tens, we focus on the number in the tens column. So for example, again, 28. Our tens column, we've got 2. You look at the last digit and you look at 2. Now, if the last digit is is 5 or more, or is it greater than 4, the number on your left in the tens column will move up one digit. So for example, 28, 8 is greater than 4, so 2 will change to 3. And you'll replace the rest of the digits with a 0. So 8 will be replaced with a 0, and the first number will change to 3, 1 higher. So let's go again through it. 28. If it is less than 4, the number on the left will stay the same, but if it's bigger than 4, the number on the left will change to 1 more. So we're looking at the number in the tens column here. If in 28, the number on the right is greater than 4, so the first number will change to 3, and the last number will be replaced by 0. So it'll be rounded up to 30. 28 will be rounded up to 30. If I had the number 573, what's my tens? My tens is 7 again. 7 in the tens column, and my number to the right of that is 3. Now, I have to ask myself, is 3 greater or less than 4? 3 is less than 4. So we're going to round it down. Immediately when the number is 4 or less, you're going to round it down. So 7 will stay the same, and I'll replace the 3 with 0. So my answer here will be 570. Again, 7 and 3. 3 is less than 4. Right? From 4 downwards, it will stay on the same 10. So my tens is 7, so it's going to remain 7. So I'll replace the last digit that's preceding the tens column with zeros. So 573 will be rounded down to 570. Now let's go with thousands. 5,486. Again here my tens column is 8. And on to the right of 8 is 6. Now on the right hand side I have to look at whether 6 is greater than 4 or less than, or 4 or less. Now 6 is greater than 4, so I know I'm going to round it up immediately. What's my number in the tens column is 8, which is going to go 1 up. So it's going to change to 9, and the 6 is going to turn to 0. So my answer will be 5490. So the whole of this number here changes to 90. So can you see each of it has a pattern? Rounded off the nearest 10, 30. Round off the nearest 10, 570. Round off the nearest 10, 5,490. So my answers are all ending up in tens. Now, let's look at the place value of what I just explained to you. For example, 87 is the nearest 10. There's again my tens on the left-hand side, my units on the right. Now, use the digit to the right of the tens place. Ask, is 7 greater than or less than 5? Remember, it must be 5 or more for it to round up to the higher 10. If it is greater than 5 or 5, you'll round it up to the 90, because 87 falls between 80 and 90. If less, you'll round down to 80. So 7 is above 5. So now I know, because it's greater than 5, I'm going to round it up, and the higher 10 is 90. Right? So let's look at this here now. We've got our tens and units here. I've got 36. Then I've got 736, and I've got 6,736. But everywhere you see the circle, you will see I've circled the tens column. Can you see that? So we'll identify the tens in every type of number. So here, I know the number on the right hand side is greater than 5. So I'm going to round up. So this number will change to 4, and I'll round up to 40. Here, again, it's greater than 10, so I'm going to round up to 40 on this side. So this will change to 4, this will be 0, so it'll be 740. Here as well, 6 is greater than 5. I'm going to round this up to 4, and this will be 0. It will be 40, 6,740. Now, always remember, the numbers in front of the tens column, when you're rounding off the nearest tens, will remain the same. Right. Now, I've got a number chart for you here. Right? We're going to show you rounding off on the number chart. This is multiples of 1s, but counting in tens. You'll see on your left-hand side, you've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. And on the right-hand side, you've got tens as well. So this is giving you an indication as to where a number falls within the multiples of 10. Now, the example I use first is 45. There's 45 here. Now, first of all, I establish again, 45 falls between 40 and 50. So we can see that here in this number line here in my number chart. Now, 45 again, it's the midpoint. Now, from 5 onwards, we know we move rounding up. So if my number on the right hand side is 5 or more, I'm going to round upwards. So 45 is 5, so I'm going to round up to 50. So my answer is going to be 50. But if my question here was 43, I know it's lower than 5, so I'm going to round down to 40. Let's look at 94 now. This is now we can see whether we're going to round down or up. 94. 94 falls between 90 and 100. Now we're going to look at a number chart containing multiples of 10. And my first example is going to be 45. So where does 45 fall? Between which two tens? 40 and 50. Now the last digit of 45 is 5. So we know 5 onwards, the number will round off to the higher 10. So 45 will be rounded off to 50. Let's look at my next number, which is 93. 93 falls between 90 and 100, right? So the last digit of 93 is 3. It's less than 5, so we know we're going to round down to the lower 10, which is 90. So 93 round off the lower 10 will be 90, and my answer will be 93 round off the nearest 10 will be 90. Then 98. 98 falls again between 90 and 100. Now the 8 in 98 is greater than 5, so we'll round up to the higher 10, which is 100. The 98 rounded off the nearest 10 will be 100. Let's look at other examples. 336. Which two tens does it fall under? 330 and 340. Although it's in the hundreds again, my last two multiples are tens, 30 and 40. Let's look at it now. 336 falls between 330 and 340. But where does it lie? There's it here. So the last digit is 6. 6 is greater than 5, so I'm going to round it up now to the nearest 10, which is 340. Therefore, 336 rounded off the nearest 10 is 340. Now, the next number I'm looking at is 992. This falls between 990 and 1,000, right? But where does it lie? So my two multiples of 10 are 990 and 1,000, so it's going to be either of the answers. 992, the last digit is 2, which is less than 5, so it's going to round down to the lower 10, which is 990. Therefore, 992 rounded off to the nearest 10 will be 990. Now, let's look at 997. Also falls between 990 and 1,000. But let's look at the last digit, which is 7. 7 is greater than 5, so it's going to round up to the nearest 10, which is 1,000. So, therefore, 997 rounded off the nearest 10 will be 1,000. Our next number is 6,583. Now, 6,583 falls between which two tens? 6,580 and 6,590. Now, the 3 in 6,583 is lower than 5, so it's going to remain on the lower 10. So I'm going to round down now to the lower 10. So 6,583 rounded off to the nearest 10 will be 6,580. Remember, when you round off the nearest 10, your answer will always end in a 0. Now, when rounding off the nearest hundreds, we follow the same rules, but we will look at the last two digits. For rounding off the nearest 10, we looked at the last digit. Now, the last two digits, if it's 49 or less, we'll round down to the nearest 100, and if it's 50 or more, we'll round up to the higher 100. Let's look at example 330. 330 falls between 300 and 400. Now you can see my numbers end with hundreds. But where does 330 lie? The last two digits in 330 is 30, which is lower than 49. So I'm going to round down, and I'm going to round 330 to 300. So I'm rounding it down now, and my rounding off answer will be 330 round off the nearest 100 is 300. So you can see my answer is ending off with hundreds when we're rounding off the nearest 100. Now, let's look again. When we're rounding off the nearest 100, 49 or less goes to the lower 100. 50 or more to the higher 100. Remember that always. Now, 966 falls between 900 and 1,000. So, 900, where does 960 fall? It falls after 950. So, my last two digits of 960 is 60. And it's greater than 50. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to round it up to the nearest 1,000. So, 960 is greater than 49. So, I'm going to round it up to 1,000. So, 966 rounded off to the nearest 100 is 1,000, because 960 falls on the right hand side of 950. So 966 falls in this category here between 960 and 970, which is closer to 1,000. So I'm going to round it off to the nearest 100, which is 1,000. Now let's look at other examples. 4,684. What's the last two digits? 84. 84 is greater than 49. We can see that. So I'm going to round up or down. I'm definitely going to round up because it's greater than 49. So there's my number line here. Where does it fall? It falls in between here, where the line is. So I know it's closer to 4,700 and it's greater than 49, the last two digits. So I'm going to round off 4,684 to the nearest 100, which is 4,700. And yet again, my answer ends up with hundreds. Remember, below 49, lower 100, 50 and over, higher 100. Now, let's look at 9,993. falls between 9,900 and 10,000. Now, again, we can see 900 here, and the next 100 will go into 10,000. So the last two digits of 9,993 is 93. It is greater than 49, so I'm going to round off to the higher number, which is 10,000. Now, if I have 9,993, it falls between 9,900 and 10,000, but 93 at the end of the number is greater than 49, so I'm going to round it up to the nearest 100, which is 10,000. Now, 9,993 rounded off the nearest 100. Let's look at it again now. 9,993, we know 93 is bigger than 49, so we're going to round it up again, and it's going to be 10,000. Now let's look at 9,945. 9,945, let's look at the last two digits, is 45, and then it falls between 9,900 and 10,000. Now 45 is less than 49, so am I going to round up or am I going to round down? I'm going to round down if it's lower than 49. So 9,945 falls here, so I'm going to round it down to 9,900. So rounding of 9,945, the nearest 100 is 9,900. So that's how we can do it, or we can use the place value method to do it. When we're using the place value method, we're going to look at the hundreds, the position of the hundreds. So 328, in my hundreds column, I've got 3. The next two digits are 28. I've got to look at it whether it's smaller or bigger than 49. And it's smaller than 49, so it's going to stay on the same 100. The hundreds column doesn't change. It remains on 3. And I'll add zeros to the last two digits, which will be 300. So I'll round down 328 to the nearest 100, which is 300. Now, let's look at a bigger number, 4,573. Again, my hundreds column, I've got 5. After that, I've got 73. Now, 73 is greater than 49, so I'm going to round up. So my 5 in the hundreds column is going to change to 6. So it's going to become 600. So now it's going to round off 4,573 to the nearest 100, which is 4,600. So remember, the numbers in the hundreds column will remain the same if it's below 49. But if it's above 49, it's going to change to a higher digit. Now let's look at it here. Rounding off 233 to the nearest 100. There's my hundreds column, which is 2. And next to it is 33. Now, we have to ask ourselves, is the 33 or the 3 next to the 2 greater than 5 or less than 5? It is less than 5, so it's going to stay on the same number. It's not going to change to 3. It's going to remain on 2. So rounding off 233 to the nearest 100 will be 200. Here again, I'm showing you the positions in different numbers, in bigger numbers. There's my hundreds column here, there's it here, and there's it here. So we've got to look at it before we decide to round it off. So if I'm rounding this off to the nearest 100, it's going to remain 200 because the digit next to it is less than 5. Here, again, less than 5 is going to remain 200 towards the end, but the first number will be the same. So this will be 4,200. Here again, the number next to the 2 is lower than 5, so it's going to remain 200, and it'll be 64,200. Right. Watch a little clip that will help you understand it better.
Math Coach presents Rounding to the Nearest 100. We use rounding when we want to estimate. Rounding gives us numbers that are easy to use, like 100, 200, 300, and so on. Rounding numbers help you solve everyday problems where you don't need an exact answer. That's called an estimate. Rounding might look hard, but hey, guess what? If you know how to put numbers in order and can skip count by hundreds, you can learn to round any number to the nearest 100 with ease. Here are some useful things to know. You can show any number on a number line. Numbers to the right have a greater value than numbers to the left. The nearest 100 on either side of our number is a useful benchmark. And the midpoint is the number that is halfway between two benchmarks. If the number you want to round is less than the midpoint, round down. If the number you are rounding is at the midpoint or greater than the midpoint, round up. You can round any number to the nearest hundred in 4 easy steps. Let's see how. Let's round 527 to the nearest hundred. Step 1. Figure out what benchmarks to use. To the nearest hundred tells you to choose the hundred before 527 and the hundred after 527. 500 is the lower benchmark, and 600 is the higher benchmark. Now you can set up a number line and mark your benchmarks. Step 2. Find the midpoint between 500 and 600. That's the number that is exactly in the middle. The midpoint is 550. Step 3. Now locate 527 on the number line. 527 is less than 550. So now you are ready for step 4. You can round. 527 is closer to 500 than to 600. So, to the nearest hundred, 527 rounds down to 500.
I hope that clip helped you. Now let's go to the nearest thousand. Now when we're looking at thousands, we're looking at the last 3 digits of the number. If the number is 499 or less, we round down. And if it's 500 or more, we round to the higher thousand. So for example, 436. We have to establish between which 2 thousands it lies. So it lies between 0 and 1000. Now 436 falls within this category here. Now we can see the 436 is less than 500, so we're going to round down and it's going to be 0. So 436 is closer to 0. So if I'm rounding it off to the nearest thousand, 436 round off the nearest thousand will be 0. Now 3769 falls between 3000 and 4000. But let's look at the last 3 digits. 769. 769 is greater than 500, yes or no? Greater than 500, so it means we're going to round up. Which is my bigger 1,000? 4,000. So 3,769 falls in this category, which is closer to 4,000. So I'm going to round it up to 4,000. So 3,769 rounded off the nearest 1,000 is 4,000. And again, when we're using place value, remember if the number 3,769 next to the thousands column, I look at the digit, it's greater than 5. So I'm going to change my 3 to 4, and it's going to be 4,000. And the rest of the digits are replaced with zeros. So again, I look at the thousands column, which is 3. Next to it, I have 7. 7 is greater than 5, so I know I'm going to round it up. So I'm going to change the 3 to 4, and the rest of the digits 0, and it's going to be 4,000. Now, let's look at the position of the thousands in the thousands column. 8,723. Now, here again, 8. I've got 7 next to it. 7 is greater than 5, so 8 is going to change to 9. At the bottom, as you can see, 8 changed to 9, and the other 3 digits are replaced by 0. So if I round up 8,723 to the higher 1,000, it's going to be 9,000. Right? And again, the 7 is greater than 5, therefore we're rounding it up to 9,000. Remember, thousands column, there we go. Thousands column is here. Next to it, we've got 7, which is greater than 5. So I'm going to increase the 8 by 1, which is 9, and I'm going to have 9,000. Here, 68,723. Thousands column is 8. The number next to it is greater than 5. So I'm going to change the 8 to 9, and I'm going to round it off to 69,000. Now, here I have a small activity for you to look at. Try to do the activity before looking at the answers, which is on the next slide. So I hope you've enjoyed this lesson and you understood how to round off. Please join us for our next lesson, which is coming soon. Thank you.